You know, honest, this might as well be a podcast with you and me.
Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I don't know what I would have to contribute to the conversation. Um, but I love talking to you. I love these office hours that you set up. I think they're a lot of fun. And I have time on Fridays right when this is happening. So it works out perfectly. You know, I don't know. Yeah, sure. But what would we talk about? I don't even pretend to know about Revenue Cloud. I'm having enough trouble creating a product rule right now. And um I can tell you about other things about Salesforce. I feel very versed in that thing, but that I tell people all the time that Revenue Cloud or RLM or whatever name you want to call it at this point in time, and Marketing Cloud are not Salesforce. Those are very specific things. And so it's really out of my wheelhouse because um, CPQ is not Salesforce, in my opinion. It just integrates well.
Yeah, it's a different thing. And that's all
Yeah,
changing now because of the new product that's coming out, that is out, that's
that's
in
right.
development. And I thought that in that vein, it would be useful to make this entire session all about Salesforce Revenue Cloud at Dreamforce.
Let's do it.
So I took a couple photos of sessions and some notes and things. And I thought, well, I put together this whole page on my website with all the different Revenue Cloud things that I could find. And I could pull that up and talk through it a little bit. That'd probably provide a good enough outline. And then get into some of what I saw firsthand on the ground at Dreamforce and talk about what I think that means for the future of Revenue Cloud and all of that stuff, if that would work for everybody.
I love it, man. I love Dreamforce recollections. You know, the one thing about Dreamforce is that Dreamforce, for the week that it's going on, makes LinkedIn almost unusable for that whole week for me because
Yeah.
everybody is trying to post their ideas about Dreamforce or whatever they saw or whatever. But this problem is that everybody thinks they're the only one to see it. And so it's all the same stuff, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I
Everybody
just
wants
have
to
to,
be the first one to post it so they get all the credit, like they're the only one
that
who went to Dreamforce.
that's right. And so LinkedIn is just unusable the whole week of Dreamforce. It's just unusable.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. I agree with you completely in that regard. And hopefully, hopefully I could share some stuff that's not been talked about. I mean, even very prominent Salesforce bloggers have said nothing about Revenue Cloud. All they're talking about is the AI and Agent Force stuff. I saw a little bit about Marketing Cloud. I saw some Data Cloud stuff, which is fine. And a lot of people are interested in that. But I would say that one of the, I'm going to go ahead and change this real quick. I'm going to my pin myself, not because I'm egotistical, but because I need a dramatic clip. So I'll put my hands like this, and then the AI agent on YouTube will go like, "Oh, this must be a really important moment," and then people will see me wide-eyed and excited, and they'll go, "Wow, I really got to watch that. This video is utterly compelling. Why is that strange bearded man so animated?" Anyway, so I would say the first um, before Dreamforce, I was very excited because I had heard whispers through the grapevines, through people that I know, through sources familiar with the matter, that Revenue Cloud was going to be at Dreamforce for the first time ever. I mean, it was there last year. They talked about how Revenue Cloud's going to move to core, new product, a couple of screenshots, no live demos or anything. It was all slideware. a year ago. But me and my peers were very excited because it was 2023 and nobody was talking about this. And I had heard whispers of the newer products while I was still at Salesforce, even before my last role. Subscription management came out at that time. There was a lot of discussion about that, but it never really made it big. And then we started hearing little things here and there. And then through my friends over the years, I've heard a couple more things, whispers here and there. And then last year at Dreamforce, there was the first seeds were planted that the new product was on the horizon. And we got a couple screenshots and it looked a lot like Flow. And we thought, this looks really cool. Great. We're finally going to see our moment. And then we didn't really hear much after that. A little bit more at Trailblazer DX and some of the world tours. There were some sessions on someone who became a client of mine did a session on Salesforce contracts, which was a newer offering that started to get into the contract lifecycle management piece of things. There were other demos from the Salesforce solution engineering team at those events that got into Salesforce contracts and some other functionalities that candidly already existed. And it was like, I didn't know CPQ could do that. And I'm sitting here thinking, no, I knew CPQ could do that. It's been able to do that for a couple of years. But you got to do a session on something. So there you go. And it was new to a lot of people in the audience, but not like I'm on the cutting edge of much of anything, but that's old news, folks. It could do that for a while. For example, approvals in Slack, advanced approvals in Slack. All right, we've known about that for a while. And then I started to hear about this year's Dreamforce and that Revenue Cloud was going to be present. I even heard one rumor that Revenue Cloud was going to be mentioned in the main keynote, and I was really excited. And in my head, I envisioned a whole section of, and we have a new product launch that we want to tell you about right now. Yes, the AI stuff is exciting and Agentforce is great, but there are a lot of companies who've been looking forward to updates to the Revenue Cloud product for years, and we're excited to reveal to you the all new Salesforce Revenue Cloud. But it wasn't that at all. It was an, oh, by the way, in about 2 or 3 minutes at the very end of the keynote or something. I don't know. I left the keynote because it was boring. It was just Agent Force this, AI that. I don't care. I've heard it all before. So I left. And after I left, I got a couple of text messages from friends saying, oh, Revenue Cloud just got mentioned in the keynote. And it was basically, hey, Revenue Cloud's moving to core. Okay, back to the AI stuff. And that was it. But there were a number of sessions and events focused around Revenue Cloud this year. And I've attended more sessions at Dreamforce this year than I've ever attended in total at Dreamforce. And this was Dreamforce number 5. So in one Dreamforce, I attended more sessions than I've ever attended. They were all focused on Revenue Cloud. So I was really excited. I didn't go to a single AI session. I didn't go to a single Agentforce session because I just don't give a shit. It's not what my business runs on. My business runs on Revenue Cloud consulting. I don't care about Agentforce. I don't care about AI. It's overhyped. It's going to be a bubble. Maybe I'll be wrong. I mean, it's here to stay, but everybody's so damn excited about it. It reminds me of the dot-com bubble from the early 2000s or the real estate bubble of 2008. Oh, you can't go wrong. Real estate's the greatest investment you'll ever make. You can't, oh, it's going to be here. The prices are only going to go up. You better buy. Pop. Dot-com bubble. Everybody started to think they were smart because they were making money on tech stocks. It was like, oh, I'm a tech investor, blah, 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 making all this money. And pop, the AI bubble. I mean, just think about this for a second. I mean, I'm not going to dig on AI too much because I want to talk about Revenue Cloud, but I have a LinkedIn job seeker as a tool. I'm not looking for jobs because I've got my own businesses. I'm not looking, but it lets me see who's viewed my profile. I get a little more analytics around my posts. I get a couple more features and functions, so I use it. And I checked out OpenAI one day because one of the things you can see with LinkedIn Job Seeker is some information and data about a company. How fast is it growing? How many people work there? What types of roles fill out the org hierarchy and all that stuff. The average tenure of an employee at OpenAI is 6 months. The average tenure of an OpenAI employee is 6 months. Do you suppose that it's probably a chaotic mess on the inside because the longest that a lot of people have worked there is 6 months? The company's doubled in size in 6 months. There's infighting. The CTO just left. Other executives are leaving. Sam Altman seems to be the only person holding this whole thing together. They're going from a nonprofit model to a for-profit model. Well, that's awfully convenient. Like I think the parent company's a nonprofit, but the bottom is trying to convert to a for-profit. There's got to be some sort of weird illegal thing happening here. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but this reminds me of Uber. This reminds me of WeWork. This reminds me of Theranos. Maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know. We'll find out. History, the truth is revealed over time. So I could be completely wrong about all this stuff. But anyway, that's all to say that there's going to be a lot of shape shifting and stuff and a lot of evolution happening very quickly in the AI space. A lot of these companies are going to die, a lot of them are going to live. But that's how it goes with any new technology. I mean, you saw the rise of thousands of different cryptocurrencies, but there's only a couple that end up coming out and stabilizing and still being in the game. A lot of them just fall away. So there's a huge luck component to it, the timing, all this other stuff. Anyway, I digress. And I think Salesforce, like it did with Salesforce blockchain, you remember that? Oh yeah, that went away. And Salesforce, the Einstein voice or whatever it was, Salesforce's version of Alexa, yeah, that went away. All of these products that are announced at Dreamforce, they just kind of vanish into thin air, which then brings me to Revenue Cloud. Is that another one of those? Is Salesforce Revenue Cloud, the new one, going to be like a figment of our imagination a year from now and it's going to vanish into the ether? It's a fair question. I'm going to say no. I think it's going to be here to stay for a while, though it's not going to be without competition. You have a lot of other vendors. Juanis, in the past, you've mentioned new.io. There's logic.io. There's Deal Hub for the small businesses out there. There are many quote to cash vendors. Oracle CPQ still exists, aka Big Machines. Salesforce CPQ, there's 6 or 7 thousand customers that use that tool. They're not going to just cut over overnight. Product has to get to parity first, and the data models are different. And there's a lot of stuff to figure out, but there are a lot of competing products to the new Revenue Cloud. So what makes me think it's going to stick around? I think it's going to stick around because I've seen more investment in this product from Salesforce than I've ever seen. Salesforce is currently in the process of a replatform from the old Org 62 to the new Org SF. I attended some sessions on this at Dreamforce, where what do you do when you have a 25-year-old Salesforce org and you're now a massive enterprise software company and the whole thing is just a big mess of stuff? It's it is a beast, Salesforce Org 62 that Salesforce has had. It's the 62nd org ever created on the Salesforce platform. That's why it's called Org 62. And Salesforce has been using it as the main production system ever since. That's what I logged into when I was a Salesforce employee. It is the stuff of legends. But Salesforce is going to replatform, and part of the replatform is getting away from their existing quote to cash tools and consolidating and using its own products. So Salesforce is customer zero with Salesforce Revenue Cloud, and they're going to be rolling this out, and they've started the project and all this other stuff. So to me, that says even for its own sake, they're going to continue to develop this product so that Salesforce can run on its own software. The product management team, there are hundreds of engineers working on this product, around the clock development to build this thing out. I will say that as skeptical and cynical as I have been about this product since the beginning, I've not seen the pace of development and the pace of functions in upcoming releases is faster than I thought it would be. It's further ahead than I thought it would be at this point, so that's good. I've worked with clients already on Revenue Cloud. And quick branding thing. Salesforce's branding team has the fickleness of a tween, of an indecisive tween at that. I mean, the product has been rebranded. It's Revenue Lifecycle Management, then it's Salesforce Revenue Cloud, then it's Revenue Cloud Advanced, and then it's back to then it's just Revenue Cloud, and now it's Revenue Cloud on Core. And this, make up your goddamn mind. It's Salesforce Revenue Cloud. That's all I'm going to call it. So that's my prediction. It's going to end up just being Salesforce Revenue Cloud, back to the beginning, because other rebrands have just you take words off to make the new brand. So we're going to take Salesforce, Revenue Cloud on Core. We're going to take Encore off of it, and then we're just going to call it Revenue Cloud. So whatever. That's what I'm going to call it. That's what this office hours was called from the beginning, even when it was still just CPQ and billing. That's how it's going to be. And anyway, that's how I'm going to talk about it. So, Revenue Cloud at Dreamforce. There's a lot of investment in it. Salesforce is customer zero. Customers are already implementing it. There's a huge amount of there are huge numbers of people working on the product. All of these things are good for the future of the new Revenue Cloud. Let's talk a little bit about what we saw at Dreamforce, so we can get into some specifics, as I just keep blathering on here. Where is it? It's that one. Yeah. All right. So this is from my own website, garvinsconsulting.com. You can go to garvinsconsulting.com, or you could probably at this point just Google Salesforce Revenue Cloud at Dreamforce 2024, and I bet this is the first thing that pops up. Let's Google it and see what happens. Okay, you got a couple of Service Cloud keynotes. Okay, did I make it? Did I make it? Okay, there's my Reddit post. Oh, there we are. Okay, not bad. Top 10 results. Fantastic. And so here we go. We're starting. We had this Revenue Cloud crawl. This is a picture from TDX when I got a bunch of Revenue Cloud people together. I tried to do the same thing at Dreamforce. It didn't pan out the way that I thought it would, but there was interest. People who are in the Revenue Cloud space, we know each other. We've come across each other. I thought it would be cool to hang out. And a couple people did show up for that. Hopefully it'll be bigger next year. And then down here we had all the different Salesforce Revenue Cloud sessions. I did not get a chance to go to all of these. Once the video recordings become available, if video recordings were made of these, I will add them to this page, and I'm just going to leave this page up the whole year. And then for next year, I'll do the same thing, update it to Dreamforce 2025, and then put all of my sessions in here. If you have sessions next year and you want them in this page, go ahead and email me, john.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com, or just go to my website and fill out the contact form, and then I can add your session to this page as well. So we had a number of different sessions talking about just an overview, creating orders on here, hands-on workshop. The hands-on workshop was packed. In fact, that was another promising indicator for the future of Revenue Cloud, is that every single session that I went to was full or over full. There were lines out the door to hear about this product. The roadmap session, the first roadmap session, was overbooked by 500 people, I learned. So in addition to the 100 or 200 people in the room, you had an additional 500 people that were interested in that session. Very interesting. Assuming that Dreamforce was about 50,000 people or so, 1% of the whole conference was interested in this. I think that's promising, especially because of all the hoopla around the AI stuff and the giant push to get people to go do AI sessions. The fact that there were still full sessions every time for Revenue Cloud, even on the last day. I mean, the Revenue Cloud roadmap session happened twice. I missed the first one because I overslept because I stayed awake entirely too late the night before and was a bit hungover. It's Dreamforce, it happens. I made a rookie mistake. Oh well. But I went to the roadmap session at the end of the week, and it was full. People were very interested, and it was a cool roadmap session. So even the last session of the last day had people in it. And it was in an obscure part of the conference too. It wasn't an easy to get to. You walk by and you go, oh, that looks cool. I'll watch that session. No, 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 no. This was like down a long ass hallway in a dark corridor in a big open room away from everything. And people were still going there to hear about this product. It's almost like Salesforce is completely oblivious. Big Salesforce, not Revenue Cloud. They know people are interested, but big Salesforce is oblivious to the fact that customers want to know about this product. They really want to know about this product. They've wanted to know about this product for years, especially existing customers who are going, hey, you know that bug? Can you fix that? Nope, working as designed. Well, your design on this thing is garbage, so we want you to fix it. Nope, not going to happen. Okay, fine. I digress. A lot of those issues are going to be theoretically resolved in the new product. And based on some of the releases that the upcoming releases, which I can share in a bit, that seems to be true as well. The hands-on session also full. People wanted to get hands-on with the product. There were multiple hands-on workshops that I went to, all of them full. I didn't get it messy to master, Revenue Cloud, sales transformation. I don't know that oh, that was Slalom. Slalom's trying to create a professional services quoting tool using Revenue Cloud, which was interesting. I saw that there was a client I had back when I worked at Salesforce, my first client, a very large, the world's largest consulting firm. And the solution that we designed at the time, custom solution, was strikingly similar to what I saw Slalom build, which is like, all right, that's cool. 4 years ahead of time. Nice. Okay, I was in the right direction. And I think if somebody out there wants to build a bolt-on for Revenue Cloud, professional services is good. There's a lot of consultancies out there that need to use a resource planner and create a quote from it, but they don't do that in CPQ. And roles, weeks, sum it up, create the quote. If somebody wants to do that, feel free, because I will do it if you don't. Salesforce managing its quote to cash with Revenue Cloud. That was the session on the cutover from the existing Org 62, the existing quote to cash systems, of which there are many that Salesforce uses because each of these acquired companies that it has purchased over the years has a different sales process, different quote to cash systems, all these other things. So this is a big effort to consolidate a lot of these systems and bring everything together. And that's a pattern that I'm seeing with my clients as well, is they have all these different tools that they put together over the years, sometimes just because you get tool proliferation and sometimes because you have acquisitions and they have different tools. And so now you're trying to right size the whole company. Uh, and it was a very interesting session. It was highly technical and got really nerdy, which was awesome. Best practices, I didn't get to see this session, so I didn't know about that. New configurator, uh, usage and AI. Some of the stuff was like the AI stuff was more along the lines of, okay, we've got all these quotes that exist. Let's start to understand what's going on here. New configurator. It's a better looking UI than what we have in CPQ. And in the roadmap is an advanced configurator that looks strikingly similar to Logic. Uh, and it's I think it's going to be far more performant. It's going to give more flexibility. That's going to be included in it as well. I don't know a lot about it yet, so I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to make sure that everything that I share with you is correct. So I don't know a lot about advanced configurator. I'll have to do more research, but from what I understand, it's similar to Logic if you've used that. Consumption-based pricing. There was a session on this. Technically, it was a Salesforce billing discussion and demo with that managed package. However, the consumption pricing functions are going to be rolled out in the next release in winter 25, and then soon, I want to say spring 25. I have the roadmap, some roadmap slides that I'll share, some photos. But the invoicing and the billing capabilities are going to start getting rolled out here in the near future as well. And then we've got more sessions. Down here, I didn't go to a lot of the partner-led sessions. They were during the day. They were at a separate location, and I was trying to stay as close as I could to the Moscone Center, just because that's where I would be most recognized. And when you are a company of one and you can't afford and don't want to pay for those overpriced booths that are questionable in their effectiveness in the exhibition hall, because somebody with my budget would be relegated to like the furthest back corner where I'd have to stand all day and hope that somebody made their way back there and then try to convince them to let me scan their badge. At this point in my career, and with my facial recognition, the best bet for me is to just wander aimlessly through the exhibition halls and use my height and my beard to my advantage. So that's what I did. I did crash their party though, the Hustle and Flow party hosted by NeoCall, which is an early mover in the Revenue Cloud space. It was a good time. I ran into a lot of people that I knew who worked either at NeoCall or other firms, and it was a good time getting to know other Revenue Cloud people. They had a whole bunch of sessions, and I added them here. There were some other partners that had sessions as well. Added them here on this. I don't know how many of the partner-led sessions were recorded. There were some happy hours and things that happened along the way, but there's just a ton of stuff that was present for Revenue Cloud at Dreamforce. And then I ended the week with the cigar shindig, which is a nice little non-Revenue Cloud event, but it's a fun thing to do. I thought I'd throw that on there as well. I'm not a cigar guy, but it was a fun place. Although I have to say that it was probably some of the worst customer service I've ever had. I waited in line for 30 minutes to get a cocktail. The guy, like, I know you see me, bro. I'm 6'5" with a giant beard, and I've been patiently standing here for a half hour, and other people have come and gone with their drinks, and I'm still standing here. Like, do I just need to wave a pile of cash in your face for you to listen to me? The answer is probably, I learned. But whatever. Anyway, that was it for the actual sessions and the page that I created. And again, I'm going to keep this up for the next year until next Dreamforce. So if you wanted to see what any of those sessions are, I'm sure some of the links will start to break over time as the events get taken down on the Dreamforce website and stuff like this. But I'll keep them up so you can kind of get a general sense. Plus, it's going to help me with search engine optimization as this continues to index. So if any other partners out there try to take this idea, just know you saw it here first. I'll probably get more web traffic than them anyway. All right, now it's also funny how shockingly bad a lot of these big fancy consulting firms are at marketing. I'm just gonna say it's almost I almost want to offer them some consulting. Say, hey guys, do you want some help? I can help you. All right, let's share another window. Let's see something in the chat. Something in the chat. Oh, AI assistant. Okay, cool.
Do you feel like if Revenue Cloud were easier to implement, it would have more traction and less people with questions? If that makes sense.
Maybe, but I don't know how it would be easier to implement because let's take the tool out of it for a second. Quote to cash is extremely complex. And people constantly, myself included, I mean, I'm supposedly an expert in this stuff, but there's so much that I don't know. And it's kind of like jujitsu in that way, right? That was the crowning achievement of my Dreamforce week was actually coming back and receiving my black belt in jujitsu. That was
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you very much. That was my highlight. But it's similar in principle because okay, I got my black belt. So most people would say, okay, this person is skilled at jujitsu. They could probably whoop my ass. And that's probably true. But I don't know a lot about like I have a solid foundation in jujitsu. I think that's really what the black belt means is okay, you got the basics. And now it's time to really learn and refine and polish. Similar to if a person got a PhD in something, their learning doesn't stop. They're now a professor and they're going to continue research in their field and they're going to continue to expand the body of knowledge and they're going to continue to learn for the next several decades of their lives. The same thing is true of jiu-jitsu and it's the same thing here. There is a new product. My learning with quote to cash and revenue operations continues. Do I know a good chunk? Yeah, I have a good fundamental understanding of revenue operations, of quote to cash, business processes, of the Salesforce Revenue Cloud product. Pick your poison as far as like CPQ, billing, the new Revenue Cloud product. I have a solid base, but there's a lot I don't know. And there's a lot that I still need to learn and to figure out. So would there be less questions about it if it was easier to implement? Probably. But then you might also end up with more customers actually implementing it if it was easier to implement. Some customers
Well,
are just scared shitless of it and say, screw it, we'll keep using our spreadsheet because trying to implement one of these systems is too scary or expensive or both.
and so to actually piggyback on that, um, the you were focused on the quote to cash portion of it, but I'm more focused on the technology portion of it. Whereas, as we started the conversation, CPQ is not Salesforce, it's a whole different world. If it were Salesforce, use the rules of Salesforce in the sense of creating formula fields and creating flows that make things happen. In my opinion, it would be easier to implement because that knowledge of
Of
how
those
to make
functions is more
Salesforce
common.
is more common.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, the original Steelbrick CPQ used Apex as a calculator. And you would use workflow rules and you would use your additional Apex classes to update quote data and pricing and stuff. But then the advanced calculator happened and started using JavaScript and things got a lot more complex. You're probably right in to that end. And you see it because almost every CPQ implementation I've ever seen has Apex on the quote line, flows on the quote line. It causes so many issues, but that's what everybody knows, to your point. Everybody
Right.
knows about flows, everybody knows about Apex. So a developer is going to write Apex and an admin is going to use a flow. Both of them are going to break things because they don't know how CPQ works. Because again, as you pointed out, it's its own beast. And there are really good CPQ people that could not admin their way out of a paper bag. And there are really good admins and really good developers who frankly don't know shit about CPQ. And that's fine because they may be very good at those other admin things that they do. But it is a mistake that to when people think, oh, I made some reports and dashboards and some cool stuff with flows as an admin, I can self-implement CPQ. That's a mistake. It's a whole
Right.
different animal, different way of thinking, etc. And it's not to try to position myself as some sort of like, you're just not smart enough. No, that's not it at all. It's just different, you know. It's swimming versus running. They're both ways to get from point A to point B using my own power, but the mechanisms are different, the thinking is different, the energy usage is different, everything's just different. Um, all right. I'll probably need to edit out a couple seconds there. I think I shared my timesheets with client information on it. Good thing I can edit in YouTube. Now I'll try to
Uh,
share the screen that I meant to share. Oh, you're going to ask one more thing? Go ahead.
oh, well, I, I was just going to say that it's much like I was saying earlier, how I was having trouble creating a product rule.
Mhm.
Um, Again, very different from a validation rule in the way that it's constructed, even though the logic may be the same.
Even though it's a
Um,
validation product rule in CPQ is different than a validation rule.
exactly right. So Um, I think a lot of the traffic that you see, a lot of the questions that you get asked are just because of all those differences of where's all this stuff coming from. Not necessarily the quote to clash process, but more of a technological hurdle that
How the
either you
machine
don't
works.
how the machine works. Realize realizing probably too late that it's not Salesforce and something completely different.
Hmm. Yeah, it's CPQ.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, a lot of the interest of now even the newer products that are built on the core, I think there are a lot of questions of can we switch over to this thing that we do know how to work as opposed to this thing that we don't know how to work
Yeah.
properly, and trying to figure out if it is using the technology that we already know, which, as you already mentioned, they've been short on details.
Yeah, it's similar. So there are parts of Revenue Cloud, the new Revenue Cloud, that are that leverage the stuff that a standard admin would already know. For example, when I create assets from an order, I purchase some stuff. I want to create asset records for that. The mechanism that creates those assets is a flow. And when you set up Revenue Cloud, which by the way, my friend JM at the Cloud Update, that's his YouTube channel. He just made a video yesterday of setting up a brand new Revenue Cloud org in this new product. And he shows a couple of places where that stuff happens, but there's a flow that's created for you. And then you can change and modify that flow to do additional things that you need it to do specific to your business. But it does come with some starting points
Mhm.
or the pricing procedures, which are similar in concept and look and feel to flows. It's not a flow, it's different. But there are some standard templates there. So if you don't know what to do, you could just use this, and it's kind of like the CPQ price waterfall. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. But you can modify it. So there's some of that. And the objects are standard objects now, and they're standard fields and all of that, which is good because it's now putting it on core. It's going to get more horsepower on the performance side of things. There are additional capabilities that we'll have with the new product that we can't have because of the managed package nature of CPQ and billing. So the gap will close a little bit in that regard, but it's still Revenue Cloud and it's still its own monster.
Mhm.
And to think that a person's going to be an expert in Revenue Cloud and a whole bunch of other stuff, it's almost like being a RevOps quote to cash Revenue Cloud person. That's still, in my opinion, its own career path. It would be similar to a marketing cloud person. A marketing cloud person's probably not too focused on Salesforce admin stuff because they have this whole monster that they're working with, or somebody who specializes in field service. You build your whole career on field service. Or even on the core platform, somebody might be a Service Cloud person. That's what they do. That's their whole career. They're experts in Service Cloud. I'm not one of them. I had my certification until it expired, but you probably don't want me to implement Service Cloud for you. I could do it, but I can do basic stuff, but you probably don't want me to do an advanced Service Cloud implementation. I will fuck something up. I'm sure of it. So keep me in the Revenue Cloud box. That's where I belong with
To
my.
be fair, has there been a Revenue Cloud? There's got to be Revenue Cloud implementations that you fucked up and had to correct yourself even
Oh
recently.
yeah. I would
Of
hate to see
course.
some of the early stuff that I did. Oh, and I'll make mistakes on the new product. I make mistakes on the existing product, and you go, I need to rethink this design. This isn't working like I thought. You go back to the drawing board, and that's the whole idea of agile, which is
Mhm.
such a cringeworthy word to mention anymore. But that's the whole conception is that I'm willing to change my mind and do things a different way if there's a better way to do it. But you got to get things out in the world and try it and see, well, how well will this or won't this work? We don't really know until we're actually using it. I'm going to pivot to that other slide here.
And
Let's
thank
see
you
if
for answering my question.
yeah, I think I'm going to share the correct screen this time. Hey, look at that. I don't know why it didn't share the one I wanted last time. I checked it or I selected the screen and whatever. I'm just going to go in the order that I think I took these photos. So this is down here. This is Don Fernando. I don't know who this guy is, but he's, I think, a Salesforce employee as well. But this is Don Fernando. Don's an old school CPQ guy, goes back to the steel brick days, been in the game a long time, and he's been very involved in the Salesforce contracts piece. Salesforce Contracts is Salesforce's CLM tool, contract lifecycle management. Competitors to this would be tools like Conga or DocuSign or Ironclad or Icertis. Any of these contract lifecycle management tools will be a competitor to Salesforce contracts. Salesforce contracts is its own thing. If you have CPQ and billing, I learned from one of my account executives today, if you have CPQ and billing, the managed packages, you can get Salesforce contracts for an additional licensing fee. If you get the new Revenue Cloud, Salesforce contracts is part of that. Now, will that packaging and pricing change over time? Who the hell knows? I don't know what to think anymore. This shit's changing by the day, it seems. But Salesforce contracts, this is how we're going to manage our contracts, red lines, clause libraries, and obligations and things like this. Going from left to right, we've got our data true up. This, to me, I'm not a CLM expert by any stretch. So that's my safe harbor slide. I'm not a CLM guy. I have very limited knowledge in this area. However, um, figuring out what's different between these two pieces of paper. That's my summarization of what data true up is. I've got these two contracts. What's the same? What's different? Almost like a perm comparator, but for contracts. We got playbook-based redlining. Okay, well, we have playbooks for maybe certain industries or certain types of customers or certain sizes of customers. Okay, great. So maybe we have some standard redlining associated with that. I didn't catch the first half of this, so I could also be completely wrong about my summarizations. Again, not a CLM guy. Uh, Rule-based clause terms. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. We're going to have rules, and those rules will drive clauses that show in documents. And then we've got AI powered. Of course, we got to have something AI. So we got AI powered obligation management. Um, hey, find me contracts that have similar terms to this. Find me contracts that uh, um, have a starting point for this other thing, because a lot of existing document generation for this stuff, even consulting firms with statements of work, you find the last SOW that you wrote, you copy it, you save a new version, then you start modifying that for the latest client. That's kind of how a lot of this stuff works. Well, with this, it seems like you can also get your prompts, you put in your prompt, and then that'll spit out a clause that you can then use as a first draft to send to your legal team to save them the time it'll take to come up with something from square one, which they're probably gonna go find and copy paste from some other document that they already wrote up anyway, and then they're gonna tweak it. So this can help you get first drafts of contracts. Again, not a CLM guy. How and timing subject to change. I like that this little bullet down here. So all this shit could slip into the next release, but this is summer 25. So we got a ways to go before we get into this. Some things that I've noted over the time that Salesforce Contracts has been out. One of the things that sometimes catches customers by surprise is the Microsoft 365 integration. So let's just say that you're a company like mine. I am a Google shop. I use Google Workspaces, which used to be, that's gone through a billion rebrands anyway. But I use Google for my email and my calendar and all this other stuff at Garvin's Consulting. I would need Microsoft 365 for this. So I doubt all of your users would need Microsoft Office 365, but those that are going to be redlining back and forth and doing all this other stuff, people who are going to be hands-on keys, so to speak, with your contracts are going to need the they're going to need your Microsoft 365. That kind of catches people off guard sometimes, especially if you're not already a Microsoft shop. That's something to be aware of. And then understanding, do you have CPQ and billing, or do you have Revenue Cloud? The licensing and the packaging is different for those. The pricing is different for those. It's included with Revenue Cloud. For CPQ and billing, it's an extra fee. Talk to your account executive to get numbers, because I don't want to be on record of giving pricing. That is not my job. So talk to your account executive about any of that stuff. How Salesforce manages quote to cash. This was a really good session. This was the session where this guy down here, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he's the big boss in charge of the program, here as I can tell. And this is Dan. Dan's on the product management team. And so the two of them were discussing how Salesforce is doing their big transformation and cutting over from Org 62 to org SF, which is what they're going to call their new instance. And they had a whole bunch of slides, but a couple that stood out to me was this one here, quote to cash excellence. What does this actually look like? We've got our quote to cash practice and the 10 sub practices. So as you think about quote to cash and the steps in the process, this is what it looks like. We start with our solutions and we've got account opportunity management. We do our CPQ. We've got contracts and orders, provisioning and entitlements, billing, blah, 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 all the way down to revenue recognition and so on. What are the practice improvement things that we're trying to improve? And then what are the desired outcomes that we have here? I took a picture of this because I thought, well, this is a very useful framework. Somebody's already done a lot of thinking about this. And so then I can heavily borrow these concepts and use them when I work with my own clients to help give them some structured thinking around this. If somebody else has already done the hard thinking, why not leverage that? This slide was also very useful because it took those steps from the previous slide and it started to outline them, steps 1 through 10 of these are the different process areas. You got the high level process at the top, and then you have the sub processes underneath that with the heat map of the different colors showing the areas of most improvement. What are going to be the biggest impacts to the business? Provisioning is one of them. I mean, I've heard of a customer saying they booked a deal with Salesforce for some extra licenses and they still hadn't hit over a week later. How that can happen, who knows? I'm not an expert in that area of integrations and provisioning and all that, but that's a problem. Or configuring a quote is a pain in the ass, from what I understand from the account executives that I've worked at. So this is a useful guide as you're having conversations with your internal stakeholders, or if you're a consultant with your clients to help figure out where does it hurt? It's just like a doctor is a good diagnostic tool. Where do you feel the most pain among all of these processes and sub processes? And then we have our significant, moderate, and then lesser opportunity to transform and improve the process. So I found this very useful. Later in one of those hands-on sessions, I had talked to someone who was considering migrating over to the new Revenue Cloud product. They currently use CPQ. They're an admin of 3 different organizations. And they wanted to know, well, how do these things start to map? We were sitting side by side and they were kind of struggling to figure out what how the different functions map between the products because they already know CPQ. They're familiar with that. They've been using that at the 3 companies that they had admin for, but they needed a better idea of how that maps to the new Revenue Cloud. So I drew this up real quick. This was just a back of well, not back of the napkin. This is on a Garvin's Consulting pad of paper with my QR code down here that you can scan. It's like a useful business card because most business cards are completely useless. So I tried to make something useful. So we drew up, here's CPQ, here's the new Revenue Cloud. Products are still products. Features are groups. Options are components. Lookup objects are decision tables and context definitions. And you go back and forth. And then you got our winter releases and stuff. I might have been slightly inaccurate about this stuff. I don't know. I have roadmap photos here. But this is, I'm going to make some more documentation similar to this to help people think about moving from A to B. That's going to be a common use case and probably something upon which an entire consulting practice could be built, is just helping customers cut over from CPQ and billing to the new Revenue Cloud, which then brings us to our Winter 25 highlights. So Winter 25 available now, and this was over a week ago, so it's definitely available now. Quote and order line groups. So the same functionality of quote line groups in Salesforce CPQ now has a counterpart in Revenue Cloud where we can group things together. You can group by different fields. I don't know all of the details yet, and I believe that Jean-Michel has a video on his YouTube channel about this where he shows how this function works. Ramp deals, the notorious MDQ. It's in there. I haven't used it. I haven't tinkered with it yet, so I cannot speak to it from firsthand experience, but Ramp Deals is now available in the Winter 25 release of Revenue Cloud. quoting and ordering across multiple periods, quantities, and prices. I was assured by the product management team that it actually works. The current MDQ product in Salesforce CPQ is a fickle beast. I'll say that. It works to a point, and then you got to figure things out because it's half-baked. But here we have ramp deals in a more fully baked solution. I imagine there will probably be more rollouts and enhancements to this as well as time goes on. I don't know that. That's pure speculation. Talk to your Salesforce account team to figure out the specifics on that. Guided selling, product wizard. It's the same kind of conception of I want to whittle down my potential choices based on these criteria. Same type of thing. Advanced approvals. This is exciting for Revenue Cloud customers, because especially those who have CPQ and are cutting over, because advanced approvals is a really cool package. However, you can only use it when you have CPQ licenses. It's part of the licensing agreement. Well, advanced approvals are now moving to core if you have Revenue Cloud, and it looks and feels differently. There are, Jean-Michel has a demo video of this as well. Be sure to subscribe to his channel and subscribe to my shit too. Gotta make sure I get that in there. Subscribe to my shit. That's going to be my mantra, I think, for this channel. Subscribe to my shit. So advanced approval is going to be on core when you have Revenue Cloud. I personally would like to see this rolled out across the platform because the standard approvals hasn't been updated in God knows how long. Why not roll this out for all customers? But that's above my pay grade. I don't get paid to make those decisions. We can only hope, cross our fingers. Hey, make sure you log an idea, and maybe Salesforce will look at it in 20 years. All right, consumption-based selling. This is all of our usage. More and more companies are moving to a usage-based model, which is, on the one hand, good for everybody because you're only paying for what you use. You're only paying for value, but it can also get really goddamn expensive. I'm thinking here of all these chats with Agentforce that are costing $2 a pop. Not bad if you only have 2 conversations a month. That's $4. But what if you have 200,000 conversations a month? What if you have 2 million conversations a month? Oof, it could get very expensive. So consumption, but that's why, first there was that subscription model of how can we make money every single month? Well, now it's, well, how can we know that some customers use way more than others. Well, it's not really fair to the customer that only uses a little bit to pay a big expensive price. And it's not fair for us if somebody's using a hell of a lot of the product and paying next to nothing equivalent. So this whole cost per use or price per use is very common, is increasing in its popularity. What you're also seeing out there are companies that are trying to do both. They want to have the stability of a subscription product, but with the potential upside of a consumption-based model. And so you end up with a fixed subscription. Maybe it's only $10 a month per user, but then you have some sort of overage or you have some sort of consumption to capture when they're going above those bounds. Revenue Cloud is even priced in this way. You can see on the pricing page for Revenue Cloud that you have the base license fee, and then you also have usage allocations for how many quotes you're creating and other API-based events that will contribute to pricing as well. You get some that's included. You get to use this many per user, but if you go over that, there's going to be a consumption fee, which is different than the current price of CPQ and billing. CPQ is priced on a per user per month model, and Salesforce billing is processed based on how much revenue your revenue number that's processed through the system or something like this. Talk to your account executive about pricing. That's just a high level of how it works, but they'll have a much better idea and be able to explain it better than I can. It's outside my scope of responsibilities right there. All right, so those are the big items in the Winter 25 release. I think that's really big. Another tiny detail with the consumption pricing, it seems like a tiny detail, but it's a big deal for some customers, is the ability to edit consumption schedule tiers, which you cannot do at all in the current CPQ and billing. But I've had instances where you have a customer that needs consumption-based pricing, but they also need to edit the specific tiers and the amounts. Maybe they're a credit card processor and you need to negotiate fees. Well, I can't do that unless I use a quote calculator plugin, and then that introduces customizations and all sorts of stuff. But in this Winter 25, I think it's in the Winter 25 release, editable consumption schedules. I think I'd have to double check the documentation. And then we have more Winter 25 releases. Fantastic catalog data imports. How can we more easily get our catalog data into Salesforce so that we can start selling our products? One of the biggest problems companies have in general is getting their products to market as fast as they want to get them to market. And a big hurdle in that is how long it takes to configure that new product in the system. And one of the core ideas and goals of the new Revenue Cloud is to make it faster to get your product live and running in the system. So then if the product manager has a great idea today and says, you know what, we should start doing this. Can we get this in the system tomorrow? Well, that's still pretty ridiculous in my opinion. You need a new product introduction process, and we need to have all sorts of people approve on this new product. But that's that speed that companies are looking for, where from conception of a product to selling the product in the system, we're trying to close the gap between those 2 days. And for some companies, one of my clients now, it can take months to go from concept to selling. Whereas they want to get that down. Can we get that down to a month? Can we get that down to a week? Can we get that down to maybe only a couple of days before this product is sellable? That's and this import functionality should help with that. Bulk pricing and adjustments. This is for, what was this? Update pricing and adjustments for products. I think this was like like discount schedules and stuff like that, the equivalent in CPQ where I'm buying in bulk, therefore I want better pricing. Term-based product searches, so products will be indexed, the product data, which will result in faster queries. This is going to be really important. Uh, an example of where indexing could be very helpful in a CPQ context. I had a client once that had over 5 million products in their Salesforce org, which is a whole other, I won't even get into this. It was the most complicated and probably dumpster fiery implementation I've ever seen. I mean, it was a mess. But I love the people. Working with them is great. And I saw some of them at Dreamforce, but they had over 5 million products in their system. And when they went to use CPQ and they click add products, the thing would run and run and run and run and run, spin, 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 bonk, timeout, can't find it. And it would break. And you would ask the users, well, how do you deal with this? And they said, well, you just keep trying and hopefully it works. Oh, that's not very good. But what I found out is that they were using record types on products, and record types are an indexed field. There are other ways there are other types of fields that can be indexed and this, that, and the other thing. You can look up indexing in Salesforce and dive down a whole rabbit hole. This gets into large data volumes and things like this. However, for this example, conveniently enough, their services in the business that we were working with had only a couple thousand products of all the 5 million products. And so when I used some search filters to narrow it down to just the record types of those service products, now we went from waiting for 2 minutes or more to try to get your products to return the results you want and coming up with nothing because there were 5 million products and it was timing out, to less than 10 seconds finding all the service products that you want. That's the power of indexing. So that's got me very excited, especially for companies like manufacturers tend to have this. Value-added resellers will tend to have lots of products. There are other use cases that have a lot of product records, so this can help with that as well. Contract to AI prompt workbench. I talked about this a little bit. We start to define prompts for contract digitization and instructions for that. That's a whole thing that I need to learn more about myself. And then invoice management. Yay, we can send invoices. Hooray. One time and recurring, and interface with the ERP. The detail here is in what's missing, one time and recurring. I don't see usage, so I'm assuming that usage isn't quite there yet, but I don't know. I would have to check. But the fact that invoicing is now available It's probably fairly basic, but again, I've not seen this much investment from Salesforce Revenue Cloud ever. So I'm excited to see what the next releases are going to be. And then innovation roadmap, the advanced configurator. This is the constraint-based rules engine. This was from a Veloce acquisition, I think. This advanced configurator. I don't, I'd have to confirm that as well, but I'm pretty sure that this is in line with that Veloce acquisition. This gets into competing with that configuration-based rules engine that Logic has to have something similar for Revenue Cloud. Dynamic Revenue Orchestrator. This is an order management function that helps you separate your commercial products from your technical products. When I buy a laptop, I'm going to sell you a laptop, but that laptop contains a processor and a hard drive, and it contains this, that, the other thing, and the power cord, and the this and that, maybe a cleaning cloth or whatever. I'm not going to show you all that stuff on a quote as individual lines. I am going to sell you a computer, and then downstream, I'm going to create my sales order, and then I'll create my fulfillment order or orders full of the technical products of all the pieces and parts that need to get to you, the customer. Yep. Looks like we have I guess summer 24. That was in there. Or maybe this is a typo. I don't know. We'll see. Um, I know I've seen a demo of this, so it's probably available. Consumption management, view usage and make payments. Consumption management is really important for customers because as I'm using someone's consumption product, I want to know how much I'm using. This would be very similar to seeing how many text messages you're sending per month on your phone, how many phone calls you're making. Um, if you wanted to see how much water you're using in your home and you wanted to track that metered usage over the course of the month. I don't know if anybody actually does that, but this allows me to see when I'm using a lot of consumption, when I'm hitting my overage rates on that consumption, and choosing to purchase more if I need to. That was one of the things I saw in the demo. I've burned through my allotted amounts. I'm starting to pay too much for the overage. I'm going to purchase another block and then start burning that down again. So that's consumption management, deal analytics. This is where we start to get into Tableau and analytics platforms paired with Revenue Cloud so that we can understand our deals, gets into deal desk, gets into your sales opsy stuff to figure out how healthy are our deals, how's everything looking, etc. And then you've got Agentforce Deal Desk because of course we need to have Agentforce in here somewhere. So actionable insights, optimized selling. This is Agentforce doing something like telling us, hey, you should probably do a little less of a discount. I don't know what it does. It's probably mostly slideware right now. It's in summer 25, so I'm not even thinking about it yet. I'm thinking winter 25. I'm thinking spring 25. Summer 25, I'll worry about that later. Um, and finally, what is this slide? Salesforce CPQ to Revenue Cloud. This was about, I forget what session this was in, but this is customers wanting to go from Salesforce CPQ to the new Revenue Cloud. What needs to happen? The short answer is work with a seasoned partner who's had experience in both of these things, because trying to go this alone is fraught with risks. And I mean, candidly, nobody's really done it yet. There may be a couple of isolated examples out there, but this is still a very new thing that needs to happen. You have a customer that's on CPQ and they want to move over to the new thing. There's a whole lot that's going to go into this, and we need to analyze it, process systems, best practices, migrate everything, and activate. It's one slide that is probably encompassing a year or multi-year project to cut over from one to another, especially if you have a complex existing CPQ implementation and you want to move over to Revenue Cloud. And that's where I'll make a shameless pitch for myself that if you want to talk about any of this stuff, feel free to contact me at garvinsconsulting.com. I'm happy to discuss any or all of these topics with you. You could also just email me, john.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com, and ask questions, and I'll include them in upcoming office hour sessions. Subscribe to subscribe to my shit, the Garvin's Consulting YouTube channel. Head over to my friend Jean-Michel and subscribe to the Cloud Update as well. Follow some of my other friends in the ecosystem who are getting into this as well. There is a lot of opportunity here, I think, primarily with enterprise customers, but that's really all I've got. That was, I guess, a longer summary than I thought there would be of Revenue Cloud at Dreamforce. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any other questions, let me know. Put something in the comments. I do read the comments, even though the rule is don't never read the comments on YouTube because somebody's going to start trolling you. But a couple people have already tried to troll me, and well, they're amateurs. So if you want to troll me, you're going to have to be uh, better at it than most, because it's going to take quite a bit. But if you can hurt my feelings, I'll send you a cookie or something like that, or don't. Uh, anyway, that's all I've got. Want to see any more questions from you?
No, that was very comprehensive, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I'll get this uploaded in after this, and once I find that little snippet where I doxed my client, and then I'll cut that out and then upload it to YouTube here in a little bit. But uh, hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully you find these videos helpful in general, and I'll see you next week.
Peace.